It's just Jersey, man. We're a different breed. Place, who doesn't want to win in Jersey?
And the Scarlet Knights did not have a national champion before tonight, and it's RU times 2.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? John Forster here with Breakdown from the Barn. With me, as always, my main man, Eric Winup. We're on episode 4 already. Let's get it done. What's up, Eric? How you making out today?
Good. Nice long holiday weekend. How about you, John?
It was good, man. It was good. Let me tell you, Eric, I've been listening a lot to this Jordan Pagano podcast, Barely Friends, man. It's been good stuff.
So talk to me about that. How's that going?
So I'll tell you, they got a girl from the dance team, Sid Groves on it. You know, she's a killer, man. I'll tell you what, this Rutgers dance squad, they are NCAA Division I world champion. You know, they took out Japan. Japan had 586 points. Mexico had 580 points for the bronze. Rutgers got 615 points. They took them out. She's on the podcast. It's a good one.
How do my boys Germany do?
Germany, you know, they're much better at NCAA Division III. They got a lot of the D3 teams in there. But, you know, it's a good show. I'll tell you, they how it came about. I listened to the first episode. Sid Groves sent out on the Snapchat. That's what all these kids are doing these days. They needed another co-host. Jordan Pagano answered the call. There was some competition there. They said there were some other people in line wanted to get that spot.
Well, let me tell you something. Jordan knows what it's like to have to go against stiff competitions. We came over from Penn State. He took out Bukakis, took out my man Karenni, national qualifiers to take the position at Rutgers all the way to the point of making the nationals. So my man doesn't step away from any challenge.
No, I know. I feel bad for these guys because the two guys you named are straight up killers. They were national qualifiers, and Pagano just took their spot. You know, they talk about still wearing the jorts. I like that. You know, back in the 90s, used to rock the jorts all the time, the Hawaiian shirts. That's the way to go. I know you rock some jorts back in your day. I still rock them sometimes there.
That's right. I still walk the Ryan shirt too. So,
yeah, definitely.
All right, so John, talk to me. What do we got in the docket today? Since obviously Rutgers hasn't really been wrestling, we don't get back on the mat until Maryland coming up. So what do we got going on?
Yeah, so what we got happening is a little bit of a racket was going on social media this week. On the Twitter, we had Rock Hudson from Virginia Tech. Great announcing. He was fired up. It was an unbelievable match. Virginia Tech got a takedown last second heroics over the number 2 guy in the country at 125. Match. Matt's been flying around social media. I saw Scott Goodale send out a tweet about Nick Kosko. I love this Nick Kosko. I mean, you know, Matt Howe, listening to them guys. We figured we'd have them out on the show to talk about some of our favorite calls.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, John, to set it up, when you think of Big Ten wrestling, obviously you think of Shane Sparks, Jimmy Gibbons, Timmy Johnson, you know, the quote-unquote 18. But I'll tell you what, if you listen to other programs, especially university announcers, nobody does a better job than these two guys in the Rutgers production team. Especially I see Nick and Matt joining right now. 2 A-plus announcers. And again, if you're not going to get Shane, Jim, or Tim, you want these guys announcing it.
Yeah, I agree. What's up, guys? How you making out today?
Hey, John.
What's going on, fellas?
Nice, man. Nice. So why don't we kick it off? Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing these days when you're not announcing for Rutgers?
Yeah, I guess I'll start out. You know, Matt and I actually both work at 24/7 Sports. We are national news desk writers, so we've followed the Rutgers path with a lot of other Rutgers guys to 24/7 Sports. So we're still in the know with college football, college basketball, recruiting, all that good stuff. We have a bunch of broadcasting gigs on the side. You can hear me, of course, on Big Ten Network Plus with our good guy, Lou Brogno, doing all the Rutgers matches and some other Rutgers sports. Matt joined us actually the other week during the tri-meet for the first time on BTN Plus. So we're getting him up the ladder as well, too. So it's good. So, but I would say we've been keeping busy, always keeping tabs on the wrestling program. And, just me being the broadcasting for the team now for, I think now this is going on 6 years now. So it's been a while. And I mean, it's actually hard to believe it's already been 6 years to say the least.
Nice, man. Nice. So, Matt, what have you been up to? Cherry Hill West fame. Tell us what you've been up to these days.
Yeah, so I also work with Nick at 24/7 Sports, national news desk team. Nick said that we actually have 4 or 5 Rutgers guys who work there, and everyone else is all across the country. But we got that Rutgers connection going there. So I've been there almost a year now. I love that. Prior to that, I was at ABC News Radio up in New York City for a little while. And then I do this fall, unfortunately with this fall and COVID, I didn't get to do as many games as normally, but I do high school football for Rancocas Valley. I've been doing that for 2 years now. So I've been play-by-play for Rancocas Valley High School. So yeah, and then of course I've done some Stevens wrestling matches in the past. And then this last weekend I got to do the tri-meet, the extra match. So that was a lot of fun too, getting back at the rack.
Nice, excellent. So Eric and I, we were going through the tapes, finding some of our favorite calls from the past. I'm gonna pull some of these up for you. Let me get this going here. And we're gonna kick it off with one of my favorites. We had Richie Lewis, definitely taking on Alex Marinelli, couple-time All-American, ranked number 1. We know he beat Vincenzo Joseph a lot of times. I'm going to pull up this match, and then we'll look at it, and we'll talk about it.
Still a scramble. Lewis hanging on the leg. Nothing yet. Now Lewis on top in a scramble. 10 seconds now. Lewis hops over, and he is going to get 2 points. Richie Lewis, the takedown. 5 seconds to go, and Lewis is going to do it. Richie Lewis beats Alex Marinelli.
Unbelievable.
Chops at Tom Brands. Richie Lewis is the victor over Alex Marinelli. He is headed to the 3rd place match. What a victory for Richie Lewis.
All right, I'll jump in right away. I mean, it was kind of a funny story about that. It was, I don't know. It was weird because that was the Big Ten tournament in 2018. So Matt didn't get it to come out with me and my other buddy, Mike Antashowitz, for that. Matt came with us to Nationals a couple weeks later though. But Mike and I were out at Michigan State for that. And that was, I don't know, that it was just so bizarre because Lewis had lost to Marinelli twice that season, and it's a wrestle back round. Lewis is coming off a tough loss, very gritty match against Isaiah Martinez, 2-time national champion. Actually threw him in that semifinal match, if I do remember correctly. Crazy match. And then he wrestles Marinelli, and we're like, oh, great, here we go again. His part, I think I said at the beginning of the broadcast, here we go, part 3. He's down 0-2 against this kid, and it just goes back and forth. And there was a lot of, for lack of a better term, shit talking, I guess, if you want to call it, between the Iowa side of things and Richie Lewis going against Tom Brands. That's what I mentioned right there. There's a lot of jawing between the two of them. And, I think Lewis signaled to him right after the match, after he beat Marinelli, and he chomped his hands like this, like a talking hand. So that was pretty funny. But that match was just insane because the entire, I think in the entire arena, aside from the Iowa fans, said, all right, we're gonna root for the Rutgers guy here instead of the regular Iowa guy. So it was a crazy match. He was able to hop over in that scramble, got the 2 points, and he rode for the last 8 seconds. It was just bonkers. And to this day, I know it's the first one you play, but that's probably that's personally my favorite call. And I'll toot my horn a little bit that I know Coach Goodale is a huge fan of that call. He actually requested it when Mike Antosh and I did our final college radio show before we graduated.
Funny, just add one thing to that. If you think about Lewis at the beginning of the year, obviously a lot of people speculated he'd go 157, decided to go 65. I was at that first Marinelli match, and all I heard from people, he's not strong enough for this weight. He's not going to be able to finish on a guy like the Bull. So to see him come out, he did an All-American that year. He's probably one of the best Rutgers wrestlers to not get AA. But I thought the fact that he showed that he could drive through and take a guy like Marinelli out, that was a huge turn of events when you think back, the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and I remember that. Real quick, I remember that Iowa match at the rack. That's a match that Mike and I and Matt and I we've broken down that match so many times. Where they messed up. I still remember a lot of a lot of small details about that match and how it could have went the other way, as a lot of Rutgers matches unfortunately could have gone the past couple of years, but that one could have gone the other way. It could have been a monumental win. He bumps up. It was a little bit late, so John Van Brill doesn't wrestle in that match at all. He was originally a 57-pounder, or sorry, he was 65 that year. He was gonna drop because Lewis and bumped up to 65. So he didn't wrestle. Lewis bumps up. They missed the opportunity at 57, and then Lewis doesn't beat Marinelli. I know Joe Grell missed an opportunity. There was a questionable call in that match too, where he got a takedown, but they ruled him out of bounds. It was absolutely bizarre. There was just a lot of crazy things going on, but they had everything break right for them early on. So it was like, oh, they are going to do this, and then they didn't do it. So it was just I remember that. But then of course, I think that's what just made it that much more satisfying to see Lewis get that win. That's obviously his iconic moment in a Rutgers singlet at the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, is that the match where I think Brands made the comment that the Rack's a nice high school venue?
Yeah, it was something like that. That's I think also when Lewis wrestled Marinelli at Midlands in their second match that year, Marinelli beat him again, and I think that's when Lewis and Brands had some sort of words. We weren't there, so I don't know exactly what was said, but I think that's where it kind of originated from.
Definitely, yeah, great one. Great one, Richie Lewis. One for the ages. Shame he never got on that podium. He was right up there that year. Just barely missed it. Heat weight class. A lot of fun. So next we're going to go. This was a match. Laser DeLuca coming in against Keyshawn Hayes. Keyshawn Hayes was ranked 5th in the country. Up 5-0 with riding time. So really he had a 6-0 lead in the third period. This one was electric. The crowd went crazy. I'm going to break this one up into 2 parts. This is at the beginning of the third period. We'll take it away.
DeLuca has the front headlock, but Hayes is going to stand right back up. And now DeLuca throws. Hayes has him on his back. Here's a chance for DeLuca. Just like that. He has Hayes on his back. Looking for the pin now. Here is Eleazar DeLuca. He's going to get a count here with a takedown and back points. Can he get the pin here?
That's a
1
pin,
second
Nick.
to go. Try to turn him over. DeLuca has a chance now. We have a chance for a pin. DeLuca holding him down. Has the arm, has the leg, has the head. DeLuca turning him over now. Looking for the pin. He's got time.
Don't get too on top. You gotta be at 90
DeLuca
degrees.
pushing him now. Has a chance to pin Hayes. DeLuca is not going to do it, but he gets a big move. And now a 6-5 lead for Eleazar DeLuca.
He gets up top there. Hayes ends up getting out. It's a close match, 6-6. Hayes has the riding time. 14 seconds left. It looks like he survived. This is what
Now,
happened.
DeLuca trying to finish. 10 seconds now. DeLuca is stuck with Hayes trying to throw him again. He's got him on his back. Eleazar DeLuca.
5 seconds.
5 seconds now. DeLuca is going to hang out for the victory. And that's it. Eleazar DeLuca, the upset over Keyshawn Hayes. What a job by Eleazar DeLuca. He has brought the Rack to their feet. Flexes the arms. Keyshawn Hayes goes down. What a job by Eleazar DeLuca.
So I love that match. What were your thoughts, Nick?
Just bonkers. I mean, Rutgers actually they had 2 upsets. That one and Richie Lewis took out. Oh man, it's gonna bug me now. But he got an upset in that match as well. So it'll probably come to me. But in any event, they get those 2 upsets. But that one happened first, and it was just so insane because as anybody who knows DeLuca, he rather throw you than know you, as he likes to say. So he'll toss you around. I was with him yesterday at the Mobbin Classic as well, broadcasting that on Mobbin Media. So that was awesome. And every time I see him, that's the first thing I think of is that match. So, but no, it was wild. Gets 2 throws, and that's just a typical Rack at the wrestling. That's just typical fan reaction at the Rack for Rutgers wrestling. You get a loud roar like that. There's nothing. Basketball. Basketball. Matt and I love basketball at the Rack, but nothing compares to a roar like that when a wrestling match happens and someone gets a throw like that. I mean, oh my God, my head was going to explode. It was awesome.
Yeah, I remember bringing my wife, my stepdaughter there, and that match happened at the end. It was kind of a little bit of a lull because there was a lot of Ohio State. They were stacked that year. That was the year probably their best team. I thought they were going to beat Penn State. And then that match just brought everybody to their feet. That was worth the price of admission. People were going crazy. I loved it.
Yeah, you don't see, it's hard enough when you see one lateral drop but hit two within a 10-second period. I mean, that's like Vision Quest stuff. I mean, it just doesn't happen, especially on a top 5 wrestler. So, yeah, DeLuca's done a lot of good stuff coming back, helping out in the program in New Jersey. And the one thing I would say, Nick, not related to that, but you mentioned kind of with Ashnall Rofkin, he's just been killing it over at Rofkin. That channel's been doing a really good job. Excellent job with the Mobbin Classic. I think John and I are going to touch on that later, but really good work, guys. That's just the events that's been done there has been top notch.
I appreciate that as well.
Yeah, excellent. Good stuff. So we'll go to the next one. This one was out in Pittsburgh. I think this is where I met you two. I was wandering around the lobby, probably had a couple of drinks in me. It was a good time. I saw the Rutgers gear. I was like, let's do it. So this is, no national champ before this moment. We'll take it away here.
Any point ends it in the overtime period. Here's a shot from Fix. Soriano on a re-attack. Does he have to? Does he have it? He does! Nick Soriano, Rutgers' first ever national champion, with a takedown in the second 1-minute overtime. Are you entertained? Wow! Soriano on a re-attack. Does he have?
So that was a great one. How you doing? Let's talk about that one.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And shout out to Nick, because he was the one who told me, he's like, hey, man, you should record this, like a front-facing video of this in case he does win. And
not to cut him off real quick, but I brought that idea up because I was like, Matt, I mean, you were here, you were with me and Mike in 2018 Nationals. Soriano was in the finals against Spencer that year, so I had my phone propped up that year, and of course, Soriano lost. I still have the video actually, which is bizarre, but just to kind of look back on it. But I was like, I can't use this now. So I was like, Matt, if he wins this, like, you need this on video. So, and sure enough, it blew up.
Yeah, that was a great one, man.
Yeah, it was so much fun, and it was awesome that Nick got to be there for it, because this was a year after he had graduated, but he was out obviously in Pittsburgh anyway. And quick shout out to my other broadcast partner that year, Garrett Gotthelf, who was a grad student who I happened to meet through a mutual friend, and he was a 100-match winner in New Jersey in high school, and he came out and he was great that year. A quick little story about the "Are you entertained" thing, like that kind of just came to me because after Nick got the takedown, he was just walking around the mat like this, and for some reason it just reminded me of Gladiator, the "Are you not entertained?" But I just took out the "not" and I said, "Are you entertained?" because "Are you Rutgers?" It was just like, I don't know. It just came to me off the top of my head. I didn't plan on saying that or anything. And then the rest is history. I mean, I was just very, very lucky to be able to call that match. And considering it was Rutgers' first ever national champion, I consider myself very, very lucky. And it was the highlight of my time at Rutgers for sure.
For John and I,
that was a great line. We're probably going to steal that for some of the promos for our podcast.
I mean, use it up.
I got that saved on my computer. Yeah, I thought that was amazing. I would have thought that you've been planning that for weeks, but you would say that was just the perfect line to say at that moment. And like you said, Soriano just had his hands up, kind of like what he was saying.
I was going to say, John, you and I were both there in person. That was just a wild night. I actually got on the ESPN, the big screen, because my son was on my shoulder with the RU flag as it was getting waved. And we had Tim Burklow right in front of me. He was waving the flag. Just a great night. It was so cool to see my son, 8 years old, right there on the big screen on the ESPN network. So they eventually came by and told us, you might want to not have the kid up on the shoulder, but in the moment it worked out well. So good stuff. Excellent call.
It's good to go. All right, now this one. This is like the greatest picture of all time.
At least one more time. Another stall call on DeSanto. It's now 6-4. Delvecchio needs a tilt. He's got 20 seconds to do it. In fact, Mike, one more stall call and riding time. Delvecchio could tie the match. He continues to now. DeSanto's flattened out. Delvecchio working now. He might get riding time. Under 10 seconds to go. And DeSanto's hit again with stall. It's 6-5. Delvecchio might get riding time here. And Delvecchio has riding time. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to overtime. Scott Delvecchio rides out Austin DeSanto the entire time. Gets stall calls and riding time. It is 6-6. What a comeback from Scott Delvecchio.
And I'm just going to say, DeSanto does not seem like he's in the right mental state. Now he's yelling at his coaches when all he had to do is be active.
Well, he's going to be aggressive towards DeVecchio here. DeVecchio has to avoid the takedown. It's sudden victory. Here we go, overtime. DeVecchio trying to going nuts here. DeVecchio maintaining his level. DeSanto trying to dump him. DeVecchio fighting it off. Shot with DeSanto. DeVecchio has him in front. Looking to re-attack his DeVecchio. He's going to take the takedown, and he's got it. Scott DeVecchio beats Austin DeSanto, and Scott DeVecchio is an All-American for the first time. Scott DeVecchio, for the first time in his career, has it become an All-American.
That was a great one. DeSanto was the 7th seed. Big upsets during the year. DeVecchio kind of stuck into that blood round match. Unbelievable moment. What were your thoughts there, Nick?
I mean, when you're down, I think he was down 6-1 in that match, and you're just like, great. You know, he's DeVecchio, another opportunity, another Rutgers guy who just. It's just it's wild because it was another Rutgers guy. You're like, okay, he's gonna come up short again, blood round right there, knocking on the door, and of course, he actually does it. And it didn't look good because he got taken down and dumped, and it was a 4-point near fall, and then boom, it's a 6-1 lead, whatever it was at the time, and then he's on top the entire third period. And I don't know how. They were if you're DeSanto, I still to this day don't understand how he was not able to get out. And if he doesn't get out, I don't know how he was hit for stalling, 3-4 separate times in that match or in that third period alone. And then you kind of knew when it went to overtime, you're like, okay, it just got intense. And if DeVecchio gets his takedown, then the entire arena is going to explode. I don't care if it's a Rutgers guy, and at the time for DeSanto, a Drexel guy, the arena is going to be like, wow, that is amazing. To this day, that's probably one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen in wrestling. And DeVecchio scored all of those points on stall call just by riding tough and just not giving up in that third period. He could have easily kind of mailed it in and went for big moves, but he rode and kept DeSanto in one spot, and then boom, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I was going to say, Nick, the background of that, when you think of where DeSantos was up big, but just the fact that he just mentally blanked out, okay? And Scott's awareness to just stay on top and go with it, okay? And just stall after stall after stall. I'll tell you from my standpoint, it was one of the strangest matches I've ever kind of listened to. Just the way it all kind of came out. And for Scott to come out and take advantage of it, he got his opportunity to go get the takedown. Just a bizarre match altogether. So obviously a big moment for Rutgers.
Yeah, no doubt. I forget now if Matt was with us in 2018 for the championships. There were times where he was in the booth with me and Mike, and there was other times he was down on Matt's side. Now I forget, Matt, were you down on the floor for that one?
Yeah, I was down on the floor, and so I got to see it like eye level and just see the mayhem take place on the ground. And I was always sneaking around on the floor because I didn't really have a credential to be like on the floor, so I was getting yelled at here and there, but I was always sneaking my way around, just what Jersey people do. And I got in close for this one, and it was awesome. I'm pretty sure you guys threw it down to me after for like a sideline report. And that was fun for me being able to be on the floor for that one. For this tournament in general, since you guys were up in the booth, being down on the floor was a whole other experience, which was really fun.
It's awesome. Yeah, I love that match. DeSanto's a guy, I'll tell you what, entertainment value, he's must-see TV. Something's going to happen. I was at the year before the Giant Center when he took out Spencer Lee. That might have been one of the most amazing matches I've ever seen. That place was going nuts. That was unbelievable upset at the time. And then DeVecchio just come back, doesn't quit. That's the way to do it. Just stay in the match, keep going, and got it done. That was unbelievable. Always one of my favorites is Scotty DeVecchio. All right, now we're going to this one. This is Mobbin. We're talking about the Mobbin Classic versus Kolazic. Kolazic was ranked #1 in the country at the time. A lot of lead up to this match. This was the year that Princeton was going to take out Rutgers. Couldn't get it done. We won the team match. They had a solid squad that year. In the papers, Chris Ayers. And I love Chris Ayers. I love that he said this. This is what we need in wrestling. We need this going back and forth. He said he didn't think Ashland was going to be able to score a point on Kolazic. This match is going. Ashland just starts building it up. He's up 7-2. Had 2 unbelievable to the back throws from quick seatbelt throws from the top. This match just scored some points. Here we go.
This place is going to explode.
7-2, Anthony Ashnault. 48 seconds remaining. Ashnault trying to remain undefeated and hand Kolodzik his first loss of the season.
It's got to be good it's got to be good on top here. Major not quite in play. Got to be careful. Don't stall here. Don't lock your hands. Be careful. Good stuff by Ashnault. Kolodzik trying to go for that switch there. Stay behind him.
30 seconds left.
She's very heavy on those hips right now. Hasn't seated. He gets thrown to his back again.
And he's got him down.
That's 4. That should be 4.
There's 2. It's 9-2. And there's only 10 seconds left. He also has the riding time.
He's going to get the major here, Lou. What a job.
Final 5 seconds. The crowd is exploding here at the rack. Anthony Ashnault wins it. He defeats Matt Kolodzik to remain undefeated.
Anthony Ashnault, unbelievable. You see him holding up 10 fingers to the Princeton bench. Chris Ayers, the head coach of Princeton, said he would not score a point. Ashnault put up a 10 spot and gets the major decision, and he ties the match, Lou.
Unbelievable, right? The 10 spot. I love it. What was your thoughts, Nick?
I mean, it was a pivotal match, obviously, not just because it was
At
1
Wegmans,
versus
we
2.
make shopping easy.
But
Use our Wegmans app or visit.
But you also had that major decision tied it up, and it was key for later on in the actual team score. So they actually needed the major anyway. So the fact that he just kept going and he shut him out was mind-boggling, really. And then, I think the fact that I got to see that because, I mean, again, it was just weird the way my college career kind of lined up with Ashnault's as well. His senior season should have been my senior year as well. So I was like, okay, hopefully, Ashnault, Soriano, they'll get these national titles. I'll have some, selfishly, of course, I'm like, all right, I'll get some great calls, and it's great for the resume tape as well. And then, he's out for the entire season, and Soriano falls short to Spencer Lee. And the very next year, I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna see these guys? So I got the opportunity to broadcast for BTN Plus, and that I did a couple matches that season. So it was awesome to have that opportunity. And then, of course, that's one of the best duels that I've ever seen between anybody in college or high school. And that match was one of the most intense atmospheres I've ever seen in any sporting event. And I'm a huge Eagles fan. I went to one of their games, during their Super Bowl run. That wrestling environment was unlike anything I've ever seen in my life. And I know that, that was that was right after I graduated college too. So I was still kind of in college mode almost a little bit, with the team as well. And then being able to broadcast that just made it even sweeter. And I know Matt broadcasted it too during his senior year with the radio station. So he has insight on that too. And I'm sure he can agree with me that no game for basketball, no other wrestling match, nothing's ever going to top that in terms of the noise level inside the rack.
Yeah, exactly, Nick. I was going to say it was the loudest I've ever heard the rack. Even as good as Rutgers basketball has been recently, this was the loudest. You know who else says it too? James Cratch of NJ.com. He's also said it's the loudest he's ever heard the rack, and he's been at every Rutgers sporting event at the rack the past couple of years. But yeah, I remember the first time that Ashnault turned him on his back earlier in the match. It was with the same move, right? Kolodzik's on bottom. He sits out. Ashnault, he just kind of scooted out to the side and spun out in front and threw him over. And I remember listening back to my WRSU call of it. I have the radio call of this still. And it wasn't my favorite call I've ever had because, I was so caught off guard. It happened so quickly. I didn't know how to describe it. It just, all of a sudden, he was sitting out. All of a sudden, he spun out, put him on his back. And the first time he put him on his back was the absolute loudest I've ever heard the rack. And that was just an absolute blast being able to call that for WRSU as well, because that was, like we said, a year after Nick was gone.
Yeah, excellent, man. I agree. And big props to Princeton for making that happen, too. They had some fans there. We were going back and forth. That was the loudest sporting event that I ever seen. So, guys, thanks for coming.
Real quick.
Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, if I can get something in, Nick, because that match meant a lot to me because as John knows, I actually sit Matt's side, and I had that match circled in. I was really psyched for it because there's a lot of back and forth. I think that was the 5th time they wrestled. They were 2-2 up until that point. Ashnell, a couple years prior, had beaten him in the Nationals to place in the blood round. A long story short, I was coaching the Westfield rec team at Metuchen that day, and I didn't realize they were the same friggin' day. And I already, basically committed myself to it. So I'm literally on the sideline just killing myself. And all I remember is watching on my iPad, telling everyone, don't bother me for the next 9 minutes, okay? And when I heard Nick go, this place is going to explode. First thing I thought is, why the hell am I not there? Finally, once I'm like, oh my God, Ashland's going to major this guy. So for me, it was one of the few times, Nick, for a Rutgers home match, I was actually listening to it, not there in person, and to just hear your call, it actually took a little of the sting of not being there. So important moment for me. And again, just a wild night. And to your point, last thing, that major is important because I think Rutgers won the duel by 1 point, if I recall, or I don't know if it was, because I think Colucci might have got a major.
They won by 1 point in the duel, and if it was tied, they would have lost on criteria because I think that they split the bouts, but Pat Glory had the pin at 125, so Princeton would have won. So that major was important. I think I think you're right. I think Colucci did get a major as well. I forget now, but I think that might have been more expected, and I think everyone expected Ashnault, Kolodzik, potential national final in March, and they're like, okay, it's going to be a 6-2 match, 6-3, 6-4, 4-2 match. Nobody thought 10-0 in that scenario because, of course, they wrestled in the semifinals. It was 2-0, and National won with an escape in riding time. And yeah, you're right that entire series. Just a quick story on just broadcast. I broadcasted pretty much every one of those matches that National wrestled against Kolodzik. You go back to their first meeting. It was the Battle at the Birthplace. Like first varsity matchup was the Battle at the Birthplace back in 2016. So it was like November of 2016. It was outside. Of course, great event for Rutgers Princeton, and National gets upset by him. That's Ashland's only home loss of his career, which is bizarre. And it was outside. So he's never lost in the rack, but he lost outside. And I was broadcasting that match with Mike, and it was just, it was crazy. We were like, we were stunned. They won the match, but he lost to Kolodzik. And we're like, great. Now, is he ever going to get over the hump? And of course, he eventually did get over the hump as he beat him in the quarterfinals, which I did call that one. That's when he clinched All-American status for the 3rd time at the time. So they were 2-2 at that point, because I think it was when Kolodzik was a red shirt.
Yes,
the year even before that, they split 2 matches at Midlands, and it was and nobody really thought anything of it because Kolodzik was a redshirt. So like, all right, whatever, he's good, doesn't really count. Then they split the varsity matches the following year, and then of course that 2018-2019 season, Ashland majors them at the rack, and then of course we all know what happened in the semifinals in Pittsburgh where he shut him out again, and then ended up winning a title. Of course, just 1 day later, which was the icing on the cake. But yeah, the long series between him and Kolodzik is definitely something that's going to be embedded in my brain for a while I'm talking about broadcasting wrestling.
Definitely a great series, guys. Thanks for coming on. As you guys know, this was brought to you by Wegman, so you guys got a free sub and some sushi coming to you. We're going to get it, but definitely have you on again. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Right.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Be good.
All right, Eric. What are we talking about now?
Yeah, I think we ought to we talked about last time, we went through the weight classes on who we think was going to win, dark horses, all that good stuff. So why don't we take 5 minutes? I don't think we need to spend a lot of time in this, but just go through what we think our chances are in each individual weight class of Rutgers actually having a qualifier for the Nationals. So obviously not a lot of matches this year, so we're going to be Maryland to the Big Tens. So why don't we break it down?
Yeah, so different way to go about this year, right? So why don't you tell us about how they did this? Not a lot of bodies of work happening throughout the year. Normally a very good system the NCAA put in place where you get rewarded for the season. I know you looked up a little bit about how it's working this year. Why don't you let us know?
Yeah, John, and I still sometimes get confused about how it all works out, but the bottom line is they went through, I think, 5 years worth of history for each of the conferences, and based off the performance over kind of that trailing five years, they came up with what they thought should be the allocations because they don't have enough body of work for this year to really make a fair assessment. So what was crazy about that, John, is the EIWA, which we know is a strong conference. Obviously, it's not the Big Ten, but when you think in terms of the EIWA, Princeton, Cornell, Lehigh, really strong squads, they probably had the second most allocations, if I'm correct. The problem is, Princeton, Cornell, all the big Ivy Leagues, they're not wrestling this year, okay? So what ends up happening is you probably have the EIWA over allocated probably by like 20 spots. So they're essentially going to kill like 50%, of the wrestlers to qualify, and your best teams aren't even there, okay? You're not going to see Yanni, okay? You're not going to see Pat Glory and the guys at Princeton, and yet they're going to get all these spots. Meanwhile, the Big Ten is probably under allocated, and those spots that the EIWA is getting without their top programs come kind of at the expense of the Big Ten. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you my thoughts on that, Eric. The only thing I'm upset about that is that the EIWA is not allocated by 30 spots, because if anyone wrestled in the EIWAs in those late 90s and early 2000s, they know the EIWA got totally screwed. They did not do this fair system based off of how good people were that year or how they did during the season. They did this 5-year look back, same as they did today. I don't care how good your team is 5 years from now. And then they gave you points on how many guys you had All-American in those 5 years. Well, guess what? You know what gives you more All-Americans? Having more people at the national tournament. So it was a total hose job for EIWA. I'm glad they're finally getting their due. I did a little bit of research. I rewind to the 2000 year. I'll tell you what, this year, EIWA, tough teams in there. They got the finalists went to nationals plus 6 other qualifiers over the entire 10 weeks. Listen, I'm going to read you off a couple people that did not make the finals. They got snubbed this year. 141 pounds, Mark Connolly in Navy. Next 2 years, he's an All-American, #1 seed at nationals. Did not make the show. Did not even take 3rd in the EIWA. He took 4th. 165, Greg Parker of Princeton. He finished 6th, ends up in the national finals when he gets his shot. 184, we know Rutgers man Tommy Tanis. He takes 3rd in there. We know what Tanis did when he got to go to nationals. This guy beat Damian Hahn. He took 4th in the country. You get these bracket busters in there. There would be a whole different story. So I'm happy the EIWA is finally getting their due for some stupid formula, and I'll take some away from the Big Ten this
year. Nice. So why don't we kick off things at 125, and obviously we've got at this point Nikki Aguilera. So what's your thoughts there, John? How do you think RU's chances are getting a qualifier?
Yeah, so why don't we give a percentage of what the chances are of getting a qualifier? I'll give you a little bit of background. Aguilar's number 29 in the coaches poll. In this way, they're allocated top 8 is going to qualify. I think there's more at-large bids. There's 7 at-large bids, 7 or 8 at-large bids for each weight. So there's more at-large bids this year. So really, I think this weight's pretty deep. Aguilar needs to get, he's ranked number 12 in the Big Ten. I think if he gets in the top 10, he would qualify. I'm putting Aguilar at 60%. He needs to do better than he's been doing. His losses are just guys that are ranked very high. I'm having faith that we're going to see the Aguilar of yesteryear come into this tournament. So I'm putting his chances at 60%.
Yeah, so my thoughts here is this. Number one, for those who don't know, there's actually a rule in place where you actually have to have 4 matches in if you actually want to get an at-large bid. You could have 1 match, but if you go ahead and win the Big Ten tournament, you automatically kind of qualify, but you got to have that 4-match minimum. If it wasn't for that, you might not even see Nikki Aguilera there, because we talked about in the last podcast we did that, the question was, Nick was wrestling so poorly at the time. Was he going to get pulled? Was Scott Goodell going to go in a different direction? Unfortunately, given the fact that Rutgers hasn't wrestled since, and they've got 1 more dual meet left, really, if you don't put Nikki out there, you got nobody for the Nationals. So you kind of got to roll with Nick here. I'm going to put the percentages a lot lower, and the bottom line is, obviously, he has not looked well. In order for me to feel confident that Nikki's going to make it, he had a great run last year, made the national tournament before they canceled because of COVID. But he's got to have another run, in my opinion. He's got to show up at the Big Tens. If he shows up, loses his first match, or maybe loses his second match, wrestles back and doesn't kind of, get one of those top places, I think his chances of qualifying are a lot lower. So from my standpoint, John, if he's going to get in there, if it's going to be greater than 50%, he's got to win 2 or 3 matches at the Big Ten tournament for him to make it. That's my opinion.
Gotcha. All right, so 33 and 41, these two guys, they could go on to, they're making it, Alvarez and Seabass. They're going to the tournament. That's what happened. If they don't, I might have to protest the NCAA. 149, Mikey Van Bro. Big Ten has taken 7. He's ranked 21st in the coaches poll and 9th in the Big Ten. So in an auto bid top 7, I'm going to say his chances are pretty good of even making that happen. I think even if he holds serve at 6'9", he's pretty much a sure thing to go. And this is a very deep weight in the Big Ten. I think you're going to see a couple at-large bids come from that weight class. So I'm putting his chances at 80%. Again, a lot of tough guys in there. So, he needs to wrestle well, but I'll throw him at 80%.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you, John. I think MVP is going to get the allocation here. Probably should have. I mean, we talked about the Griffin match against Purdue. I think he got kind of a hose job in that match. His losses this year are so close, and they're the top wrestlers to begin with. So I really like Mikey's chances here. But the bottom line, he still has to come to the tournament and perform. Obviously, he got the at-large bid last year. As long as he holds serve and wrestles the way he's been wrestling for, I'd say, the last, not just this year, but the end of last year, I think he gets in. I think it's I'm not good with percentages like you, but I definitely think it's greater than 50%. But my gut is if I got to put money on the table, Van Brill makes it to the Nationals this year.
Gotcha. Good deal. All right, let's go to 157. We got Rob Kinneard having a very good year. He's ranked number 27th in the coaches poll. Big Ten has taken the top 8 at this weight. He's currently ranked number 8 at the Big Ten. He just needs to hold serve there, finish his 8th. He'll go. I think he probably see him finish a little bit higher than that. Even if he falls a little short, I think he gets at large. I'm throwing him at 90%.
Yeah, I actually like Van Brill's chances a little bit better, only because I think this weight is stacked. Number 2, Van Brill's got history. Okay, he was a qualifier last year. He's shown he's got a little bit of a resume to work off of. Where Kennard, we feel very positive about him long term. Put it this way, next year he's going to make the national tournament. He might actually be able to do some damage. Okay, I think his chances are definitely greater than 50%, only because of where he's ranked where he's at right now and how he's performed. He's already got an upset win. Okay, I feel good about Robbie's chances, but again, he's going to have to put together a couple of wins at the Big Ten tournament. I think this is a case where we've talked about seeding. I really hope he gets the right seeds and things fall his way. For all you know, John, he can make a run here, okay, and actually place, top. It's not out of the question. He can come back and win top 4, top 6, depending on if there's an upset. So I definitely like Robbie's chances here. I like Van Brill a little bit more, only because of the resume and the history. But again, the way Robbie's wrestling and his pedigree, still only a redshirt freshman. I hope that doesn't work against him.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll move on. 165. Brett Donner, not ranked in the coaches poll. Big Ten's taken 8th here. He's ranked number 9. I think that's a little deceiving because there are some good guys ranked behind him. Top number 8 is Peyton Robb from Nebraska. You got guys like Garrett Deji House from Purdue, ranked 12th. So there are some very good guys ranked below him that just didn't have that opportunity to wrestle the top guys yet. I'm thinking he's going to have a tough time. I think he has a shot to make it. He really needs to put in a performance much better than what we've been seeing and pull off some upsets. So I'm putting him at a 40% chance at qualifying.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one because he doesn't have the background like a Van Brill has over the last couple of seasons. He doesn't really have a resume to kind of go off of. So he's really going to have to make noise in the Big Ten tournament. Donner's a warrior. He goes out there and fights, but he hasn't even started all the matches. Obviously, Goodell's been working the lineup a little bit, putting different guys in. So I'm curious to see if he's going to step on the mat at 165. Okay, or is Goodell going to make a move? But again, it goes back to that 4 matches. You got to go with the guy who's going to give you the matches, and he's going to be able to get him in the Big Ten. So I think we're probably, I hate to do percentages. I don't want to count a Rutgers guy out, but the chances are against Donner at this point. In order for him to sneak in there, he's literally, John, going to have to go on a run and get an out-large bid. I think it's going to be very tough for Donner to break through in the national tournament in this weight class.
Yep. All right, let's move to 174. Jackson Turley, currently ranked 19th in the coaches poll, number 7 in the Big Ten. Big Ten has taken 8 at this weight, so he just needs to hold serve. I think he could even do a little better than that. I think if he does fall below that, he's still going to go. I think he needs, a top 10 finish is almost going to guarantee him a spot. I'm putting his chances very high. I got 95%.
Yeah, I really like Turley here. He really hit the ground running a couple weeks ago. Big throws, I mean, he took a ranked guy and basically toyed with him. Okay. Again, though, Jackson Turley last year, started off the season at 165, couldn't keep the weight, so he really didn't finish out the season. Just like Kennard, a little bit different scenario where Kennard kind of redshirted last year. Turley pretty much had a redshirt without getting it. So he's really trying to go off momentum right now. Doesn't have the resume historically to really kind of convince the at-large guys. Our problem, John, is we're homers here, so we know what these guys are doing. We know what their capabilities are. So I think sometimes we overrate our guys a little bit. But there's nothing wrong with that. That's our job. But I like Turley a lot here. I think if he puts together 2 wins in the Big Ten tournament, I think he's made enough of a name for himself. He's exciting. He's got some big ranked wins here. That's the key here. So if he doesn't place in that top 6, okay, and get an automatic allocation, the fact that he's got wins against ranked guys, I think that'll go a long way in the at-large bids. I like Turley's chances here.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking along the same lines that John Paz, they're taking 8 at this weight. Paz is currently ranked 9th. He's ranked 15th in the Coopers Poll, though. So I think even as long as he's close to that top 8 finish, 9th, 10th, even 11th, I think he goes, and I think he's going to do that. He put some good wins on his resume this year. I'm putting his chances pretty high, 90%.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And kind of like we mentioned before about, Turley, Paz has got wins against ranked guys. Obviously, he knocked off the Ohio State kid. That was a huge win for him. So he's already setting up a resume that is worthwhile looking at, even if he doesn't get that kind of at-large bid in the tournament. I actually think he's going to get it. I think he's going to wrestle a hell of a tournament. I really want to see him wrestle Owen Webster again. I want to see a little bit of learn from those mistakes. So I give Posnas, he's shot very high here. I think he's going to make it. He's obviously a true freshman. So again, it's the same theme here. He doesn't have the body resume of work over the last couple of years coming as a true freshman, but he was a big name recruit. I think people knows who he is. He's got already some big wins in the Big Ten. I think he makes it.
All right, and we'll go to 97. This one I was a little disappointed in the allocations. Only 6 are going. This is honestly a very deep weight in the Big Ten. I did look the other one, the Big 12. They got a fairly high amount. I think they have 5 in the Big 12, so there's a lot of good guys there. I do think you're going to see a lot of at-large bids coming from the Big Ten here. I do think there'll be about 4. So my opinion, Janzer needs to get into that top 10. To get an at-large bid, just the way the weight class is. He's ranked number 25th in the Coopers Poll and number 10 in the Big Ten. I'm hoping he places above that, finishes top 8. I think he'll go. I'm going to give Janzer a 75% chance, just mostly because of the low allocated number.
Yeah, and the other thing you got to keep in mind here is those allocations were put in when Miles Amin was over at 184. He's been wrestling 197. So the problem is you're now putting another top 5 wrestler in with limited allocations. You know what I think of Janzer? I mean, he is fun to watch. He's an absolute dynamite bull out there, okay? He keeps coming. I've said it time and time again, though. I feel like he's really got to get used to 197. You're not going to be able to push guys around. I mean, we were talking to Nick Kosko about Richie Lewis back in the day when he was wrestling 165, where we really felt good about him at 157, but at 65, was he going to be able to stand up to those bigger, stronger guys? It's the same situation here a little bit. Of course, Richie Lewis put a hell of a year that year, went to nationals. He got all the way to the blood round. I'm a little bit nervous of the fact that there's so few allocations. Miles Amin is bumping up to 197. I think his chances are really long here, and that is not a knock on him, okay? It's the fact that he's really going to have to put something together. Last year, he kind of made it through. He does have a little bit of a resume to work off here, so he's got a name. So if it comes to kind of an at-large bid, I think he's got a resume, but he absolutely needs to pick up 2 wins in the Big Ten tournament for him to sneak in. So we'll see what happens. I think his chances are a little bit lower than you put him, but again, that's why they wrestle the matches.
Yeah, we'll see. Now, heavyweight, this is one where I'm a little disappointed. I think this season is going to really hurt Boone McDermott or Colucci, where they could have earned more spots for the conference and they could have beat some ranked wins. They're only taking 7 at this weight. Top 8 here is pretty strong. I mean, you go to number 8, Tate Orndorff, he's a national qualifier. I think he started the year ranked 8th. A really tough heavyweight class. I think it's going to be tough for these guys to kind of break in. And I think if they don't get if they don't get the top 7 or maybe even 8, it's going to be hard for them. So I'm putting whoever gets a nod here, their chance of probably like 35%. Again, probably less to do with their abilities, more to do with the shortened season and the dynamic of the class.
Yeah, and I think the bottom line here is who's going to wrestle in this weight class. Is it going to be Colucci? Okay, or is it going to be Boone? And again, we go back to the 4 matches. I don't think Boone has the 4 matches to go. So again, I'm trying to think what Colucci's allocation is as well, kind of how many matches he's in. So it's going to be a long road for Rutgers here. And you're right, it's an absolute shame the way the season's kind of shaken out. We just haven't had the matches to really see what people can do to build that resume. So let's see who wrestles for Rutgers come Maryland. Okay, who takes the mat, and then once that happens, let's see what happens at the Big Ten tournament, because once again, it's going to keep the performing at the big.
All right, so I think it's going to be a good year for Rutgers. I'm going 7 qualifiers somewhere in here. I think that's where they're going to fall. What do you think, Eric?
I'll give you a range. It could be as low as 5, depending on how we perform at the tournament, and it could be as high as 8 or 9. So I'm going to go split the difference and say we get anywhere from 6 to 7.
Gotcha.
All right. All right, John, it was a good week, so I think we should probably wrap things up, take the show to OT, and let's move on to Sudden Victory round. A couple of UFC signings, John, so what do you got?
Yeah, let's do it. Great news. I'll tell you, rewind. A year ago today, Matt Simone and I took the wife to a fancy Valentine's Day at Cage-Free Fighting Championships. Pat Sabatini in the game. Arm got broken, looking like Gumby. Looked like this guy had a tough road back. You know what happened? September, he comes back, first round KO. December, he comes back, second round submission. Pat Sabatini is going to the UFC this Friday night on UFC Fight Night. I'm excited to see it. Philly's own. He's going to have a good show. Go ahead, Eric. What about Penn State, Michigan?
Yeah, John, both of these teams are stacked. Penn State stole the show in this one from the Wolverines. They moved back up to number 2 in the coaches poll. Match of the night, though, is redshirt Frosh, Carter Sterogi. He knocks off Logan Massa at 174. You might recall, John, I think Massa win it all this year, so he's got a little bit of work to do there. So on a local note, Cranford's own Robbie Howard made his big debut at 125. He gets his first victory. Steve Michik, he's still MIA at 133. RBI wins easily. John, talk to me about Natalie Morgan and Muay Thai.
Natalie Morgan, Muay Thai at Lionfights, made her debut. She went in, she got the W. I got a hold of her husband, Dustin Belugi. He said she stuck to the game plan, had to mitigate the long range of Candace. Came in, used the clinch, perfect execution. Great win, Natalie. Going to you, Eric, for the Mobbin Classic.
High school's wrestling's back, baby. Big night for our man Connolly. He's been absolutely killing it and rocking lately. This tournament, John, was stacked with top New Jersey talent. I think 19 places returning place runners from last year. Current high point and RU commit Brian Silvano took home the upper weight class outstanding wrestler at 182. But the match of the night, Eddie Hummel knocks off RU commit and 2-time Hanover Park state champion Joey Alvieri 7-3. Big night for those guys. Usman, big UFC win, John, this past weekend.
Mara, as Askren calls him, Marty, gets it done. Third round TK over a tough Gilbert Burns. What does he do after the fight? He calls out Street Jesus. I see these two being the next coaches of the Ultimate Fighter. I think Dana White's going to make that happen. He's now slowly chasing George St. Pierre to be the best welterweight of all time. Will he do it? I don't know. All I know, great show tonight. Great having Nick Kosko and Matt Howe on. Great seeing you, Eric. Be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. I'll catch you guys later.